It's part of what this business is. So many people, I want to be a developer. I want to be a developer.
Yeah.
You read the paper every day. Do you want to be a developer right now? People who bought in 2016, 17 multifamily, and they did it at conservative loan to values, are becoming newly appointed members of the middle class. What we do is we give the reward first. That's the education. We give the knowledge. Then you hope that the reward comes to you, or the trick comes to you in the form of clients. But your platform, to a certain extent, is you want to try and get people into your universe. And as simple as this sounds, if they see what you do, they're going to want to hang with you both personally and professionally.
Larry Haber, welcome to the Broker Brunch. Thanks for
having me, my friends.
Yeah, we have a fresh book to plug here with Larry, and it's I'm excited to get reading it. Launch party coming up this week, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Hopefully people are seeing this afterwards so they don't think they're all invited.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So we should say it's March 20-something or March 22nd?
I don't even know. I don't know the date. And it's really, you got to call in and then you have to say the secret password at the door.
It's like a speakeasy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The swordfish is the password.
Swordfish, I love
So
it.
200 people going, did you say?
No, only 225.
Oh, wow. Great. Looking forward to it.
I feel like it's going to be a good networking event. Selfishly, I'm thinking of all the real estate people I'm going to...
Lord Business Cards, bring, Brum?
Don't worry. There's going to be group hugs and everything. It's going to be great.
Love it, love it, love it. So, Larry, tell us about a day in the life for Larry Haber right now. I know you keep a pretty interesting schedule.
The current hat is, because I do wear a few, I get up between 3 and 4 a.m. every day. No alarm clock. Work 2 days a week in the city, over on Broadway and 40th. And then we have an office, about 5,000 square feet, a not-so-satellite office, Melville, about 5 minutes from my house. The end of the day, what I get done in the morning before 9 is what many people get done in the day. It's when I do my heavy lifting, the drafting, etc. And from there, I just negotiate all day, talking landlords, tenants, buyers, sellers, brokers, clients, off the ledge that is real estate.
What time do you keep going till?
It depends. If I'm in the city, I'll take I'll take the 509 train. I've matured since COVID. I used to take in the 343, the 354, or the 443 in to the city, which was nuts. Needless to say, now I take the 509, and basically the days I come in the city, I'm setting it up so that I have like some type of schmooze near the end of the day. I'll have somebody come in the office like 4:35. We'll have maybe a cocktail or two, or we'll grab a quick dinner. So I do it that way on the island. I get in. I pretend I'm coming into the city, and so I get in my so I'm at my office 5:30, 5:45. I just don't go to the train station. I go to the Melville office, and it starts from there. So to answer the question, I'm home at 5:30, maybe having a drink with my wife on the couch.
See, 5:30, and then what happens? I'm fascinated by someone who gets up at 3 a.m. I feel like you'd have to go to bed at like 8 p.m.
No, you know what? I'm part of my problem in life, among many, is just because I can doesn't mean I should. I still have the same energy as I did when I was 12. I'm buddies with kids from 3rd grade, and like we would go out when we started having fun, like 9th grade, 10th grade. We'd go out, and then I'd be at the house 9 o'clock in the morning. What are we doing? And they go home. Just go home. Okay, I'm still that guy.
Just packing in
I'm
for the day.
still just relentless. I have this energy. So if I'm standing up, I can go 24 hours. When I get home, it's Long Island. We could be watching Jeopardy at 7 o'clock, and I'm bobbing. My wife's like, dude, it's 7:15. Wake up. So.
Not surprising you have so many interests with energy.
So I, when I get up so early in the morning, and I do it on the weekends also, it's unfortunately my metabolism.
You just boom. Mitch, you're kind of the same, right? You wake up early.
I get up like
no alarm clock.
4:30, and no alarm clock. And I've always been an early riser. I'm sure you've been the same, right? It's just our natural body clock's a bit early.
Yeah, and as I had more kids, or we had more kids, I realized, let me get out while the going was good, and because this way I'd rather see them on the back end when they were more like, they were into seeing me then.
Yeah,
I got to put
it's a
them
war
to bed,
zone.
etc. Play with them, read them a book or whatever.
It's a war zone in the morning before those, in those wee hours. I feel like if you can get up before your kids or before your family and have that hour, whatever that time is, to yourself, it really gives you a clear head, gives you a chance to start the day. I find when I don't do that, the whole day kind of gets away from you. You feel like you're on defense all day.
Yeah, well, if I get in at 9 o'clock in the morning, I feel like the day's over. I might as well just go home.
You might as well go home. Meanwhile, most people are just kind of filtering into
Exactly.
the office at that.
No, there's all this talk about people on, who get up early at 5, and whether they're more successful. And I don't know about that because, sometimes I feel I'm the most unsuccessful guy I know. But
The best kept secret in New York.
yeah, there's actually a short story in the book saying, does waking up at does missing the 5:15 meaning going home? So it's a song by the Who, because people who go home at 5:15 in the that's the afternoon. It's banker's hours, so to speak.
Bankers hours. Love that. So
Yeah.
since you brought up the book, let's dive right into it. So what made you write the book? First of all, what's the book called? Sorry.
Enabling Moments, a Negotiator's Playlist.
You can't see it in the shot, unfortunately.
We're going to, we'll have the editors plug it into the shot.
Oh,
there you go.
There you go.
So right now I'm looking into this camera.
Larry was kind enough to bring signed copies for us. And so it's called
Enabling Moments, a Negotiator's Playlist, Business Life and Negotiating Mindsets and Mantras. It's actually kind of sort of set up like an old Grateful Dead concert, 3 sets, 2 intermissions, sound checks, drums in space, which coincided with certain points of my career, and backstage access to the after party that is my mind. And I use the song titles of 300 artists, 1,200 songs to help tell the stories and the lessons of the moment. The stories start in the early 60s through the present day. So burnout's the light, people who love music and love, it's not strictly real estate, but it's negotiating mindsets and mantras. So it will help in a myriad of ways. So it's portable beyond real estate, so to speak.
So 60 years of negotiations, lessons learned.
Yeah, it talks about
hanging around real
my first
estate.
negotiation with someone other than my parents. When I lived in Rockaway, when we were kids, you got your social security number when you started working, when you were 13, 14, 15. Today you get the social security number when you're in the hospital. So my mother used to call me, and don't be calling me this, during the negotiation. When I was a bad kid, which was often, but she would go, Lawrence Howard, and it'd be like send shivers up and down my spine. So I was just a relentless SOB back then, and I still am now. I would work my first grade school teacher, which is amazing when you see first grade kids. My daughter-in-law teaches first grade kids now, and I can't believe that's what I actually did. But I have something called the white flag theory of negotiation, and that is I try to get to be reasonable, and I keep on trying to be reasonable. When that doesn't work, I just don't shut up, and then the other side waves the white flag, and generally I get what I want. That's when I learned the white flag of negotiating. She said to me, okay, you got to stop. And she took me by the hand to the principal's office. She opened up my school records. She crossed out Lawrence and wrote Larry Haber. So as a consequence of that, I am Larry Haber. My social security number, my professional licenses, everything in my life is Larry Haber because of what I did in first grade. And, and then I use a song by a band from Long Island called, I think it's the Jammin' Jays, Julie. Yep, my dentist assistant.
You ever heard of them, Mitch?
No.
She has a band, and the name of the song is Go and Get It. And it's like, so the lesson of the moment in the book is, you want something, go and get it.
A lot of wisdom in there. We were chatting before we started that you wrote the book during COVID around the swimming pool, listening to music. So that's where the tie-ins come in, right?
Yeah, so I did 100 videos in 100 days. Some of you very well have seen the videos if you go on to Insta, and it could be, the sound checks can be, 63 songs by the Grateful Dead. Did you know that you actually channel the dead when you're negotiating a lease? Or
Tell us about that. How does that work?
Oh, then we got to get crazy. Okay, we'll do that at the pool in Vegas. Okay, at the Wynn. Okay?
That's where I met you last time. I feel like
exactly.
it's that Vegas, right?
We'll talk about it. That's when you actually invited me.
That's right.
On this, it just took a while.
These
to
things
get here.
take about a year to get into work.
Yes, exactly. But listen, the way books start, it's like anything. We all evolve. It's like what you think is going to happen. Like one of the videos that I actually have a hip hop single, and it's called
That doesn't surprise me.
Leasing Reality State of Mind. And I wrote it in 15, 20 minutes. I was filming 35 or 40 videos over 2 days for our educational platform, Leasing Reality, Master Your Leasing Domain. And so I got to do something totally crazy that's beyond, my normal craze. And I wrote it, and my filmmaker, who's unbelievable, New York Film Shop. Anyway, we went out on the streets of Harlem in a building that I still have an ownership interest in, where Bill Clinton is, and 270 Lafayette, where we used to own that years ago in my prior real estate life, and I did a hip hop version of Leasing Reality State of Mind. It was a minute, and my kids basically told me that I'm going to ruin my career, and they'll disown me if I play it. And I actually listened to them, but I realized they were wrong, and it still hasn't been shown in public, but it will be.
I thought you'd be playing it around the office.
It will be this Thursday. But what happened was, unbeknownst to me, you say you can't judge people who you are. We were talking about before, do you do small deals? And I said, yeah, because small deals lead to big deals. You never know who someone is. You don't judge someone who they are, what they look like, etc. And it turns out I did not know my filmmaker had been writing beats for 20 years and has tons of hip hop, and rap songs. So he sends me right before COVID. He goes, listen, I hope you don't mind, but I repurposed the video, the lyrics, I should say, a bit, and check your email. And he wrote, so Leasing Reality State of Mind. He rewrote it, but he sings it, and it's actually great, and I'm not going to sing it for you, but
Thanks for listening to the Broker Brunch. We've now brought you a ton of episodes, and we hope we're providing a lot of value. If you have any ideas of people you'd like to see on future episodes, please drop it in the comments so we can make it happen.
That was my next question.
nah, I'm only going so far today.
So how did such an artsy guy get into like brass tacks real estate and negotiating? How do those two things marry up?
Meaning the music, you
The
said?
music, you seem like you're on a different level to most people I talk to in real estate in terms of where your mind goes. How did you get into something so like black and white as leasing and
Oh, you mean like
negotiations?
kudos out to an Irish band, U2 and Bono. My mind works in mysterious ways.
It works.
It really does.
That's just the
very
reality.
Just as I started talking, you probably started thinking about you too.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I just asked about the negotiation?
Yeah, of course. Listen, like in high school, did you have like friends who would always like quote movie lines or
Sure.
song titles or song lyrics? Well, that's where it came from. So, when my prior real estate life, I used to own and manage about 4.5 million square feet of property. It was an amazing, amazing story until it wasn't. Great Recession and a nasty little town called Newark, New Jersey changed the calculus for me. So I had to come back to the dark side being the service side. Okay. And I really no longer had clients. And I'm sitting there 49, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? When LinkedIn and Twitter existed, nobody knew about it. Facebook was personal. YouTube was funny videos. So I created a YouTube channel, a 5-part series on at least restructurings, modifications, and workouts. And I was 5-parter. I was very transparent. People thought I was truly thought I was smoking crack or, trying to commit career suicide or advertising the 70s were good to me. And I really didn't have a career at that point. I didn't smoke crack for breakfast, maybe waited till lunchtime. Just kidding. And the 70s were good to me, but I would get up there and I was talking about adding value and, but quoting Albert Einstein and Snoop Dogg and Drake in the same sentence, because of like the way I was in high school. So I just basically did what I did as a kid. And there were certain people who were like, wow, you are nuts, and, it's like, then others would be, it's so beyond the box. I go, I didn't even know there was a box to think of. I was just going out there, and I was very transparent, which was an enabling moment for me, because I got up there and I said something. I advertised myself as the landlord gone rogue, leasing trade secrets and other truths, that I was divulging, rants and raves, so to speak. But I said something along the lines then, the Great Recession. And I was talking about, just how you need to be honest with yourself. And I said, and I was talking to myself at the time, but people didn't take it that way. So you got to get off the corner of Fetch Avenue and Wine Street. Stop dwelling on what no longer is and what will never be again. Okay, you got to get over it and deal. And I said, sorry to those of you who are in my position, but welcome to being a newly appointed member of the middle class. And people were like out of their mind that I was saying it. I'm also 49 years old and quoting rock and everything. And people are like, kind of sort of putting yourself out there. It's like, what are you doing? And I was like, you know what? A lot of people will like it. Some won't. Can't be everyone's flavor, but the bottom line is it worked. And candidly, the last thing I wanted to do was go back to having partners or running a commercial real estate practice. And we have a national law firm. We have 10,000 square feet out in Burbank, and 20-something thousand here and 5,000 out in the arm. But I was like, you know what? You do what you got to do. I'm like Popeye. I can't say, I am what I am, copyright, but I be what I be. And but it was great the way it all evolved, so to speak. And the way I got to my firm, Abrams, Garfinkel, Margolis, Bergson, was I had done business with Garfinkel, not legal. And he was like, dude, it's like, we don't have a commercial practice. We have an amazing real estate practice, but it's like, you got to join us. And I didn't want to, tooth and nail, but I had 3 kids starting college soon. Part of the evolution of real estate, when you are a developer, sometimes you live deal to deal. Sometimes you are flush as flush can be. You're waiting for that capital transaction. And because Newark changed the calculus for me, I had to adapt. Like I was out at ICSC. I used to take my kids, and initially 3 of them were in real estate, and one of them was in college, and we're at New York Developers Party. Have you gone to that? Okay. And some old timer who made me look like a puppy, apparently was in a cave about what happened with me in Newark and my career. And he comes up to me and goes, dude, I'm so happy for you. You hit it. You guys were pioneers. You made so much money there. That's great. And I look to my kid, I go, do you want to take it or should I? And I go, you can take it. And my kid, Kyle, goes, he said, I really thought that I was going to be a lucky member, or I was a member of the Lucky Sperm Club. And I look at the guy, I go, he's not.
So what happened in Newark, New Jersey? And by the way, so you're 49, and what was Larry Haber like before the age of 49? It sounds like you went through a crossroads at 49 and maybe took a different direction.
Oh, listen.
What got you into Newark?
Well, you know what? We were in Soho at that time. We had bought 60 Broad Street, a 1 million square foot building. Listen, we were turnaround specialists in the early 90s during the Resolution Trust days. We represented institutional purchases of loan portfolios. The paper was going south. The property was being taken back. I learned this business on a portfolio that Lehman Brothers and Lennar Partners Commercial Division had bought. Amazing properties in Greenwich, Connecticut, in Westport, Tribeca, Soho, and 270 Lafayette was really where I cut my teeth, because we took that from receivership. We performed triage on the properties that turned it around from a property management, construction management, leasing standpoint. And we finally decided to go out on our own, like a bunch of us who were either friends of friends, or 4 of us were childhood friends, were at the same company, and we went out on our own, and we ended up buying the last property after we sold all the properties, which was 270 Lafayette. And one of my partners, his family, and him generously donated the down payment, or not donated, contributed, and, using the promotes, if you do well, we do well. We share in the party with you. That is the profit. And we bought it finally in 97. And there's a story about over-negotiating there by someone else, which is how we got to buy it. And then we sold it in 99. It was great. We bought it for $12 million. We sold it for $24 million. We got a major chunk of the profit, paid off all our startup costs, down payment for my house. Forget that property right now is worth, well over $100 million. You can't worry about the shoulda, woulda, coulda. But the way we got the property is we were selling it, and we were the brokers on the deal, and it was coming to the end of the due diligence period, and the buyer was trying to negotiate the deal down by about $500,000. And we talked to our client, what do you want to do? And they're like, no. So cancel the deal.
The greed backfired on them.
And it backfired, and all of a sudden, like it was an epiphany, like a lightning bolt from the sky. We can buy it. Why don't we buy it for $12 million?
We see this all the time, by the way.
And so we bought it. We got to keep, because we were doing the property management and the brokerage. So we didn't lose it, because we were bummed that it was, we were getting, the profit off of the brokerage commission, whatever the hell our cut was going to be. But they over-negotiated. I always felt so bad for one of the brokers, because it wasn't, wasn't his fault, the client, that, you do what your client asks you to do.
Yeah.
But we ended up, we were off to the races after that, and there was a halo effect for us I mean, there was an article back in Cranes. I don't know if it was 98, 99, and I'm taking the train in to Long Island, and I'm reading Cranes front page, and there's an article about 5 companies that are going public in real estate, and it was, there was names that and some of them did go public, and the fifth was the name of my company, and I'm like, wait, I'm the chief administrative officer and general counsel and a partner, and I'm like, what? I go, did I miss a memo or something? And this is about don't always believe what you read in the press. And so I go and I knew who was behind why this article, our name got named in the article. And I asked, I go, what were you asking? What did you say? And the question was simply, is it true that you're going to be going public? And the reporter was just fishing. And my partner said, no comment. That got us on the front page of Cranes that were going public. That got us the halo effect. People wanted to party with us personally and professionally. It's crazy just the way things work out.
Interesting.
Wind was at our back. You'd like to say skill breeds luck, but we definitely had a lot of dumb luck. But all good.
And then you had a good run then up until
up until
2008, 2009.
Harlem was great. Listen, Lehman Brothers wanted out at a certain point in 2003. The market was still going this way, and the beauty of promotes back in the day, and I'm stressing we had the wind at our back, we put very, very little down on a 2-building portfolio on 125th Street. That promote got us a 20% equity interest over a 4-year period. All we did was borrow 80%. Shouldn't borrow 80%, by the way. If that's, we still had lucky. We were still getting lucky still. But the bottom line is that's what we did. And all of a sudden, we owned 100% of the building, subject to, our mortgage, and it still kept on going. And we ended up selling, a substantial portion of it. We still have, it's a legacy asset. I'm no longer a partner. I'm a partner in those 2 buildings, but it was a great story. Let's just say, how do you put this? We went into Harlem and Newark in 97 and 98, which is getting back to your same.
You felt like they were emerging neighborhoods at the time.
Yes, and the bottom line is we were looking at Dumbo. We were looking at Williamsburg. The bottom line is we were right on Harlem. We were wrong on Newark. Maybe not. Okay. We were just too early. We were too early to be. We were pioneers. Too early in the game. Because we owned the prime property. There's no question about it. It was great, but the bottom line is things happen, and that's part of what this business is. Everyone so many people. I want to be a developer. I wanted to be a developer.
Yeah.
You read the paper every day. Do you want to be a developer right now? People who bought in 2016, 17 multifamily, and they did it at conservative loan to values, are becoming newly appointed members of the middle class. They're giving back the keys. So it ain't, it's cracked up to be. I'll use a line from a song by the Dead.
It's been a few years.
I'm very calm today. From a song called Ramblin' Rose. The grass ain't greener, the wine ain't sweeter either side of the hill. You just, you don't know, So listen, we're in a business of just accumulating knowledge, adding value, and hopefully it works most of the time.
Well said. Well said. So you've had a lot of sort of ups and downs in your career. I'm curious. This is kind of a loaded question, but the downs. What do you take away from them, reflecting back on them as we are now?
Well, as Larry thinks about that, what are some of the downs that you've had that you're thinking about? I know that you and me spend a lot of time talking about what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say downs, just like the struggles early on.
Struggles.
Well, you know what? Listen, you can't get too high. You can't get too low. That's just the reality.
That's so much easier said than done, I feel like.
Life is a lesson. Listen, I got my ass kicked, and you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. It was like, there was always a plan. I'm a planner. I have lists for my plans, and it's, I'm an anal guy, and I'm a very type A, but I'm also type C, and that I like to hang and chill, etc. So there's a few different sides to the personality. But the bottom line is you have no choice. After what happened with my old company, the end of the day, I was pissed, but I was as pissed at myself as to, in addition to the situation. And, I just found myself, it's like, there was one day I was just getting ready, I was going to my desk at 6 a.m., but I was pissed.
You pissed off about what?
I was just not happy about what just transpired,
Yeah.
and it was for a multiple reason. It was a perfect storm of, shit. That's just the reality. And I said, you know what? I looked at myself in the mirror. I go, this is so counterproductive. As much as I want to go crawl into bed and suck my thumb and cry for mommy, that ain't good. That's not good for me. It's not good for my kids. It's not good for my wife. And I'm like, from this day forward, I'm just going to kick ass and be true to myself and be the person I am. Just a relentless individual who likes to have a good time, who brings people together, and who has a skill set. I was, and then I was also a CPA, an attorney. I had this, interesting, unique background. And when I started doing the videos were not as a means of, practicing law. I was like, quoting like Frank Zappa, if you know what Frank Zappa is, had a band called the Mothers of Invention. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the mother of reinvention, the mother and father of reinvention. But what I wanted to do, playing off of a promote, platform, was I thought that there was a lot of dry powder around to buy these distressed portfolios. A lot of people in 2009 and 10 and 11 were going to make a lot of money off of them. There would be a lot of bridesmaids, so to speak, but very few brides, meaning the winners of the bidding contest to get these distressed portfolios. I wanted to do the due diligence for free or next to free. Why would you do that? Because of the very reason that if you were the bride, you were successful, I would get points in the deal. It was sweat equity, which is what promotes are. That's what most of the syndicators are. They're putting in some skin in the game, but they're not putting in the major money. The institutions are putting in the money. And, so it just so happens, that was the game plan. That's why I started doing the videos. I just wanted to get my name out there, because you figure someone's, you put yourself out there, someone's going to want to talk to you. And people did, but unfortunately it was like, dude, you just got to do leasing. It's like, this is like a no-brainer for you. You'd be such an asset, blah, blah, blah. And so it went. Do what you got to do, and, but it's...
Sometimes it mightn't be the sexiest thing either that you really wanted to do, but you kind of did what you needed to. And I think that's, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. Getting into real estate, you mightn't want to go show a building sometimes, or you mightn't want to go make 50 cold calls in a day, but every day you kind of look at where you're trying to get to, and that there's a bunch of different inputs you need to do every day to get the outcome you want. And you just keep plugging away in that kind of fashion.
Yeah, listen, you know what? You have to, listen, I obviously put myself out there. I fly my freak flag, so to speak, and that was,
But you're authentic, and I feel like that's what you need to be, because everyone is trying to get people's attention, right? And I feel like everyone only has a certain amount of attention. So if you can do something that works for Larry, or that makes Larry, then you're going to automatically get more of that attention by just being yourself, because I think people can really see that.
And I would think and also you're taking ownership for, I don't want to say mistakes, but lessons you've learned along the way, which is very
which
amazing.
Makes you that much better. Listen, at the end of the day, I'm not to be self-deprecating, but I'm probably the only putz out there in the country who used to own what I owned and did what I did. And now I'm basically advising tenants. I'd say I'm probably 2/3 tenants, maybe a drop more in landlords, because I have this unique skill set, so to speak. It doesn't make me wonderful. It just makes me experienced with a little bit of a belly, and certainly, the best hairline here. But, but it's an interesting road when you're in this business. And at the end of the day, you put on your seatbelt, you enjoy the ride is what it comes down to, But like with you guys, can I flip the script a little?
Please, yeah.
Sure.
What would any observations on what we're doing, or what you...
listen, it's great that you're doing what you're doing, because the bottom line is, listen, what you're doing here is you're showing who you are. Your marketing campaign is, you might not realize it, is somewhat similar to mine. It's educational marketing. It's reverse ABA. For those of you who took psych in college, ABA, applied behavioral analysis, Pavlov's dog, do a trick, get a reward. Educational marketing is reverse ABA. I've coined that phrase. I don't think the only people who know of it are you two and the people who read the book, okay? But, what we do is we give the reward first. That's the education. We give the knowledge. We make like Tupac. We let knowledge drop. Okay. And then you hope that the reward comes to you, or the trick comes to you in the form of clients. But your platform, to a certain extent, is if people, you want to try and get people into your universe, and as simple as this sounds, is like, if they see what you do, they're going to want to hang with you both personally and professionally. Okay. So it's like, and so the fact that you're doing it at this age is great, and it's, like, you need to listen. What podcasts are? There many things. Okay. But one of them is, if you are a listener, you have all these mentors who don't even know who the hell you are. Who some of them, listen, am I talking about myself here? Yes. Well, you're asking me questions. Of course I'm going to, if I have to give answers, you're promoting yourself, etc. But having mentors is really, really important. Which leads me to a story, actually. That was a good, you didn't even know you would size me up.
The glasses are coming out. That's a nice segue.
Yes. So anyway, so the songs in the book, honestly, to say it's a myriad. It's endless of who they are, of different musical genres. But I'm going to go one that's a little bit more mainstream.
Fireside storybook.
Yes. Yes, kids. Me here, you there. Schmoozing under the covers. That's Steve Somers from FAN, if you remember that. He used to do like the 5 o'clock shift, the midnight shift, which I listen to a lot. But anyway, thank you, Steve. This is called Time for a Sound Check, Whitney Mentoring, and How Will I Know? With a little help from 33 songs of the incomparable Whitney Houston, regardless of age, it's good to have one or more business and life mentors with a hold on, help is on the way, and you can count on me, I got you, and never give up attitude when it comes to mentoring you. Whether it's Heartbreak Hotel for you when a deal doesn't go your way, or being there to celebrate your achievements, big or small, when things feel so good, or if you just want to dance with somebody, or to call you tonight to help you exhale by telling you that all will be fine and then some when you have received the equivalent of a Dear John letter, leaving you so emotional from a client who doesn't want to do business with you anymore. Also to helping you not only get it back mojo-wise, but someone who will help guide your career step by step as he or she tells you that you can't have it all at once, or if the path you are then pursuing is a dead end. Someone who will convey with honesty that it isn't, it wasn't, it ain't never going to be. Or someone who will tell you for when it's time to raise the question, how will I know when the time is right to close or back away from a deal or leave your job? Furthermore, a mentor in both good and bad times will let you know that I believe in you and me, or it's not right, but it's okay. When you're thinking, I didn't know my own strength, or I have nothing, or it's time that I bow out, while simultaneously letting you know that you will never stand alone, while letting you know that it's okay to feel in that one moment in time, during your moment of truth, when things look impossible, that yes, it's possible, and maybe, just maybe, that it's time for you to be taking a chance, leaving you thinking that, damn, I learned from the best. So, long-winded prefaces aside, isn't having someone who helps you embrace the notion that learning to love yourself is truly the greatest love of all, even when the answer to your question, didn't we almost have it all, isn't always what you want to share together, part of the journey of what life is all about.
Wow, beautiful.
One thing I would say about mentees and mentors is that a lot of young people you meet, they want mentors naturally because you can learn a lot. But I think it's the mentee's responsibility to go and find a mentor and make them want to work with them. And the way you can do that is by going and asking questions to senior people and like bring them sort of value, or helping them in some way in return for the questions and the knowledge they're going to share with you.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Listen, part of it, listen, you need to give back. Plain and simple, it's like I didn't have, listen, my parents were my original mentors, but they taught me, and nothing wrong with what they taught me, because it's what I taught my kids: be nice, work hard. That's it. Simple rules of life. Okay, but I didn't know how to navigate. I learned by asking questions. I learned from my friends. Like my childhood friends were mentors to me. Okay, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. You take bits and pieces of knowledge from all the people you meet along the way, and you go from there. But, listen, the mentor-menteeship thing is a two-way street if you're doing the one-on-one. But these podcasts are my podcast when I was doing it, which we are kicking up again. I think I might have mentioned that. Was as much about real estate reality check, but as it was about business and career advice
And reading books.
and reading books. Which actually, this is where I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to introduce you. Let's pretend that you guys are going to be on my podcast.
It's good practice for your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, okay, let's, this is the intro. Welcome to the Broker Bunch Brunch. For me, actually, dinner, because I've been up since like 3 a.m. Okay, I'm going to introduce, sitting over here to this side is the Irish Rover. You know that song?
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Exactly. It's the Irish Rover. And the reason why Brian has that name is because of the relentless nature in which he pounds the pavement and canvases for deals
You come to
that are like the Godfather. Like, you just simply can't refuse them.
That's Brian.
Okay. And Mitch we have over here. Mitch, whose favorite song used to be London Calling, okay, is the Brit in the Bronx. And, because of things that he's doing right now, someday there is going to be a movie made of him.
Wow.
And it's going to be The Bronx Tale. And you know who's going to play you, of course.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
No, Timothy Chalamet.
No idea that's
Okay.
better, but
As for me, I'm the crazy Eddie of commercial leasing, the lease guru, and when I want to be a bit more professional, I'm the Prince. What was the name? Prince's song is the artist formerly known as Prince.
Prince.
I'm the artist formerly known as, or is now known as, Larry Haber. And as for everyone out there, who are you?
That's the intro. I love that. That kind of
That's
frames
it.
this conversation perfectly.
Absolutely.
The Irish Rover, the Brit in the Bronx, and the Prince.
I'm the artist formerly.
The Yeti of
Now
real
known as
estate.
Larry Haber, the lease guru, crazy Eddie of leasing.
Love that.
You weren't here then. Like, when we were growing up, there was commercials like the electronics stores, and this guy, crazy Eddie, just went.
he's in real estate. I actually know his son. They both.
His son is,
Yeah.
Eddie's got to be, is he dead?
No,
If you're not, sorry,
one of his
Barry.
family members. They own some retail stuff up in the Bronx. Yeah, I heard all about it.
Yeah, Eddie Antar, I think his name was.
Yes, that's right. They're up in the Bronx. Yeah.
But yes.
A client, I learned about them from a client who they bought a building from, and he showed me some of the videos, and it's some crazy Syrian guy, right? He had some amazing energy selling electronic products. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions since
Please, yeah.
since we flipped the podcast. So, let's go with it. Okay, Jay-Z, Can't Knock the Hustle. What a great song, right? This is for you, Brian. Don't worry, we got yours. Okay. And, Donna Summer, who was the queen of disco. Now, you weren't old enough, that you would have a pair of Capezio shoes in your closet and used to go to the clubs like Xenon and 54, like I did back in the day. But anyhow, she works hard for the money, so but those two songs, like Dancing in Your Head, just tell me, why is having a work ethic important?
That is a great question. Work ethic, and actually the man to my right is probably the guy who really instilled the work ethic in me in the last 2 years of working with him. But I think having a work ethic, we can get too focused on what we have today or what we don't have today. And I think if you have the mindset of seeing 5-10 years down the line, having delayed gratification, it instills in you that it's okay to empty yourself today. It's okay to put everything you have into something today and really have no guarantee that it's going to work out. But anyone who's done anything that's worth doing, I feel like, has persevered, has worked hard, has had
No question about it.
an ethic that just never say die, never stop doing it. But I don't know why that is in some people and why it's not. I do think it has to be learned sometimes, and it can be learned. I don't think it's something that I always had, is a work ethic, but I think once you find your meaning or your why or whatever you want to call it, it's much easier then to put in the work because it doesn't feel like work.
Thank you for listening to the Broker Brunch. If you enjoy the show, please hit subscribe so we can reach more people.
Of course, listen, not to get too zen-like on you, but what things in life do you control? You control very little, as much as you think you do. But the two things you really do control is, one, how nice you want to be. okay? And two, how hard you work. And if you do those two things, like, you know, it's like life will be okay, but you put yourself in a position that life can be really good, you know? So I always found like, it's like, why wouldn't you work hard? You know, and it's like, especially like when you're in your 20s and 30s, you know, listen, it's all about the balance, but it can't be, you can't be like Eddie Murphy's old song, party all the time. It'd be nice, okay? But you can't do that, you know, because then you're like, oh God, what's the song? All the Brunch. Then it's like, ain't wasting time no more. You know, you have to use, it's all about, time management, but having the work ethic is just so important.
And I feel like fear is actually a big motivator, even though it probably is not the healthiest thing, but the fear of having regret and looking back and it being too late to do it is something that I often think about, just like the future me of like, what if I look back and say, why didn't I do more? Why didn't I do it?
Yeah, but listen, it's also now like, you're both early 30s, right? Early 30s. Okay.
Flirting with mid to late, but
okay,
yeah.
but you're married, kids.
I have 2 kids.
Okay.
Kids, yeah.
But the bottom line is you have something called commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, my fear was, listen, and it was also my stupidity. I went out on my own and I had a nice paying job, and a few titles, but I wanted to. I accumulated the knowledge I wanted. I went out on my own and I had a plan. I was also going to be the GM of the Mets. Theo Epstein stole my life, by the way, but that's a different story. But that's what I was on the path to do. And I went out on my own and I had $10,000 in receivables. Okay. And I had the ability to work 2 days a week as an accountant for a big firm per diem. And I was like, okay, the 2 days per week pays for my 290.27 student loan from law school. It was a little cheaper back then. Undergrad was $500 a semester at Buffalo. This is when I went to St. John's, who, by the way, go St. Johnny's, go Johnny's last night with Big East. But anyway, and my overhead was covered like by the 2 days. And I'm like, okay, I have 5 days left in the week, meaning including Saturday and Sunday, to build a practice, okay, and to basically make enough money to eat and date. That was my entire plan. Can you do that now? I don't know. Not living in the city, you can't. That's a certainty. So work, you said fear, the work ethic, drove me. Okay, Mitch, it's your turn. Let's see.
Right, let's go for it.
Okay, the Brit in the Bronx. So I hear so many different things about the Bronx. Okay, like, there's certain areas that are hidden it, certain, maybe not. So, channeling Bruce Springsteen, are you still, waiting on a sunny day because there's darkness on the edge of town?
Let's take a step back. So without getting too robotic and market-like, the Bronx is obviously one of the boroughs in New York City. It's been underserved for the last however long, a long time. I think there's a big, prior to 2010, there wasn't any, the total dollar volume of transactions wasn't above $1 billion. So it's kind of a small market relative to New York City. I think since then, it's been like consistently a $1 to $2 billion market. And the game changer has been Brookfield coming to Mott Haven, and that other institutional capital has followed. So you're seeing like more average, bigger deal size. You're seeing more money come there. I think the infrastructure's there, the population's there. And I'm banking my career on it, so I'm kind of biased, but I'm obviously very bullish on it.
But you're making yourself an expert in a sector, which is great.
He was watching Mike Stoller videos when he was a kid in London, and he, like most kids, were probably watching, I don't know, whatever music videos they'd be watching, but Jay-Z.
But that's how I learned. That's how I learned real estate.
Mitchell was looking at Mike Stoller with his suspenders on, talking about New York City real estate. So I think something resonated about the Bronx with Mitch. What was it, Mitch?
Well, New York and London are both global comparable cities. This is what I thought about at the time when I was 24 or 25 when I decided to move here. London's been around longer than New York. Okay, and there's nowhere in London you get to central London, the equivalent of Midtown Manhattan, for the value of the bricks in the South Bronx. So in my head, it's just geography, right? Obviously, there are challenges with that market. So that's my initial gut reaction to be drawn to that market. And
because you can get into Midtown
quickly.
How quickly?
15 minits.
And in London, you're saying nowhere exists like that.
Exactly. Just because over time, neighbours have matured. And that's what happens over time. And obviously, as a young guy, you want to come to a market that's kind of underserved and be the guy in that market, be a big fish in a small pond rather than the other way around.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause at the end of the day,
The dollars are still green up there.
exactly. You know, people are always like concerned about perception and whatever. You know, and as long as listen, like you guys are hardworking, you come off as nice guys, you know what you're talking about. That's like people want to hang out and do business with people they respect.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know who aren't. No offense to my many friends out there named Richard, but who are DICKSs. Okay, you know it's like it's easier in this business because it's tough with what we do. You know, it's very tough to like be
It's
doing
tough,
this.
but I also feel very lucky to do what we do. Not to sound cheesy, but I feel like, you know, coming into New York City every day to try and make deals that are deals we never could have imagined being a part of. Even 3-5 years ago, we couldn't have imagined it. And to get to do it, to get to compete. When you get older, you don't get to play sports as much anymore. But
Yeah.
in our business, it almost feels like it's the most competitive you can go while still not being on the field.
Yeah, I was never I don't like to use the word never. I was never competitive with someone in my position, you know, if I'm wearing the legal hat, you know, I'm not trying to get over on them. It's like, okay, we're not splitting an atom or curing cancer here. Okay, we want to do best for our client, but, you know, I don't want to kick your ass because, you know, not like, you know, it's not like Little League, everyone gets a trophy. But
There's no prizes for second place.
Yeah,
It's
you
either
know.
done or it's not.
Yeah, but you know, but from the standpoint, the competition, to get to your point, it's the competitive nature. It's with yourself.
It's with yourself.
Are
That's
you
right.
bringing out the best in yourself?
Mm.
You know, what's the better version of me? You know, I'm gonna have to quote Pearl Jam. It's like I want to be a better man.
I want to be a better man, but and a lot of the time you're right. People aren't even keeping track of what you're doing. They really don't care a lot of the time. They're so focused on what they're doing.
Oh, there's no question about it. It's,
Yeah.
You know,
But in our head, it's like, oh, they're all going to think that I didn't do it or that I'm a failure. And again, going back to fear, that kind of, and maybe that comes full circle to competing against yourself, because I just don't want to be someone who can't compete or didn't give it all they had.
yeah. Well, you'll see in the we'll call it the beta version of the Leasing Reality State of Mind video that I'm filming on Thursday night. One of the lines is, "Don't want to be no leasing clown."
Right. And it's like, it's so true.
You know, it's like you sit there, you want to be the Dr. Dre, drop the mic that drops like Dr. Dre, you know, whatever. But you want to have game. Okay?
Right.
There's no question about it.
You want to be a contender.
Yes, exactly. As opposed to say I could have been.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that is what drives us. And then being immigrants, I feel like, you know, that's something Mitchell and I share in common. When you come here as an immigrant, you really have that mindset that everything you have or everything you gain is gravy at the end of the day, because you always remember coming here not having a clue what was going on, working hard for everything you got. So I'm always of the mindset as well. And that goes back to what I was saying about feeling lucky, that this is all bonus territory, right? Everything we're building here, everything we're doing is a hell of a lot better than what we were doing a couple of years ago or where we were a couple of years ago. And we're progressing, and we can feel there's people coming with us. There's momentum. We've hired people. We have a team of 6. And all of a sudden you look around and you're like, these people are buying into the dream as well now.
Exactly, you know, and your grandkids and great-grandkids are going to be like, yeah, my father came in, you know, back in the day.
It goes back to storytelling as well. Like, we want to be the type of guys when we're 80, like, this is what we did with our life, and tell our grandkids whether the story.
Well, that's going to be in the Bronx Tale.
The Bronx Tale. It's all coming.
By Star Belio, right?
You know, I have Timothy Chalamet on speed dial. Want me to call him? but all good.
But yeah, so the book, I'm looking forward to diving into it. I know it's going to be full of these types of stories. I mean, I'm a nut for New York City real estate, and I feel like you bringing your perspective from the many different hats you've worn is really going to make for a good product. And I'm looking forward to having it on the coffee table and flicking through it.
Yeah, listen, it's a bunch of short stories. Some you will like, some you'll be like, why the hell is he telling me this? And then I give you the bottom line afterwards, you know, quoting some band that you might like, you know. And the end of the day, it's a fun book, you know. And you'll either have a newfound respect or disrespect for me afterwards. Probably both, actually.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
But all good.
Well, Larry, thank you
Thank
for your
you so much
time.
for coming on.
Thank you
It's
for
been great
coming on the
fun.
Broker Brunch.
I appreciate the opportunity. Okay, and let's do this again.
We do.
Sounds good.
Fun.